So, welcome everyone. Welcome, Stefan, to our latest edition of our AQVC Insights webinar, where we are going on a treasure hunt. We're gonna wait a few more minutes for our guests to come in. Thank you, Stefan, for joining.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Very nice to have you. And let's give our guests a couple more minutes to join. And hopefully, yeah, we see lots of people coming in. Hopefully we'll have a great discussions. So, Stefan, before we dive deeper, maybe you want to tell me a little bit about your journey. How did you end up in general in investment management? What is your origin story? What's your superhero story?
So I started and created my first FinTech in 2001. It was the perfect time to get started. As you might remember, markets were down. The company I created was called Crossgate. It was about electronic invoicing, a term which was not really coined back then. And we developed this company. It became like a market leader in that specific niche and was eventually acquired by big SAP, the German software company. And after this, I thought, okay, what do I do next? I started my next business, which was in online payment and online lending. And yeah, as soon as after 2-3 years, as soon as we ventured into online lending, it was acquired again by a Nasdaq-listed company from South Africa. And then I started Quantumrock. I think the main thing is, and that's why, Stefan, also we are talking with each other. I think I did so far relatively good as an entrepreneur, but as an investor in my own picks, not so much. So that's why, I focus on my own businesses and let's do the tech investing in other companies by other people.
Yeah, I think we share a lot of similarities in our journey. I obviously also started as a serial entrepreneur, tried myself as an angel investor. I was lucky, right? I always made money angel investing, but I unfortunately lost a lot of time. And I think this is what has led us to build AQVC so that we allow investors from all different backgrounds, right? And this is not just institutional investors. These are family offices, entrepreneurs, high net worth individuals to get diversified access to venture capital. Because one thing that is obviously in venture is important. It's a great asset class. You can make a lot of money, but you can also lose a lot of money if you do it wrong. And the most important element is that you have vintage diversification. So being invested continuously is something that is almost impossible. At least for me, I don't know how it was for you. You invest into a startup, the next year you have allocated your liquidity to something else, maybe a house, maybe something else. And so then you always miss out on opportunities. And I think this diversification, doing this through a fund of fund, is something that is completely needed in the market, and where at least we see a lot of excitement now that our portfolio is growing. But how was that for you? How did you think about diversification and venture? And also for your own asset allocation and wealth creation?
When I started a business, or when I start a business, it's all about my gut feeling. I have a certain conviction then, rising. Okay, I need to do this, and it will be good eventually. And of course, I was not always right. It took longer. It was more difficult, but at least I could chip in, my team and my own efforts to make it work in the end. So when you do your own company, it works. But when you invest on the same principle, it does not work. At least it did not for me, because I think you never have, as a private person, as a family office. I also represent my own family investing. You never have this deal flow you need, to just find the right targets and make them work, which holds true for companies, but also for VCs. I also invested in VCs. Some were good, some not. You also have this portfolio thing, and you need to ask yourself as an investor, why do I get this deal now, from a VC side or from a company side? And probably you will not have the ideal deal flow. So for me, this fund of fund concept absolutely makes sense also in VC.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, when we started market sounding 3 years ago, there were obviously, we were in the frothy years of venture. There were many deals, many secondaries. A lot of family offices and investors spoke to us, hey, we only do direct investments. I just invested into Klarna, into Revolut, into some of these companies that are now, they're still around, most of them, but they are definitely fallen in valuations. And we are talking here about double-digit million amounts that were put into these companies at extremely high valuations. And I think that always with venture, you get very excited, but you're always at a disadvantage because of the disproportionate information that is available, right? And so I believe in venture, there's only two ways to make true money, is either early stage, right? So you need to be invested at the earliest stages of value creation, but that means you need to be globally active in all the ecosystem. It's boots on the ground, it's small companies, technical founders. So it's really hard to build up your direct investment expertise over there. So we believe the best way is go through a fund of fund. And then later stage, right, where there are certain elements where direct investing makes sense, especially pre-IPO, if you do it correctly. But it requires definitely skill sets that are not easily trained and not easily hired for. So I don't know. We believe.
I have peers which are very successful in direct investing, but only, because they're expert in a certain niche and they invest exactly in that niche they know inside out, But when you start to spray, it's getting difficult. But I mean, for people who have a little bit of money and can decide to do this or that, for me, it's also a question of what makes you happy. I can tell you, for me, there are certain things which make me happy. It's like, for instance, with my family, and also, of course, work on my own ideas and companies. But it certainly makes me unhappy to deal with various investments I have no real, inroad into, and an information disadvantage, and get just involved when there is trouble. So money needed, additional money needed. So that's why. But everyone is different. Everyone needs to find his own rhythm.
Yeah. No, I mean, having sort of fun and being engaged is always, I think for me, it's about focusing on my core business, right? If you are too engaged with your portfolio companies and your investments, it takes a lot of energy away from you. And obviously you have built Quantumrock. So you're also wearing multiple hats as an investor, for your own money, for your own family, but also obviously you're building Quantumrock, which is also a very exciting product and company. Maybe tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it's a company specialized in creating, also based on artificial intelligence and machine learning, creating unique investment products. We do this mainly for large banks and asset managers, especially in Asia. So our major customer base as of today is Asia. However, just as a brainchild, of me, and also the circumstances which were Corona, we developed put a lot of effort into developing a new asset class, because when everything was shut down and you could not move, you could not see your real estate you had in a different country, and you were not free to do anything you wanted, suddenly you have a question, so what about the assets I have? What if, sorry for my French, the shit really hits the fan? What are you doing then? So this triggered the search for a real asset class, really hard. And we looked into gold, we looked into all the other stuff, and eventually we ended up with gemstones, and our mission was to create world's first professional investment product for gemstones, because it's as hard as it gets. When you talk about assets, it's very fungible. It's actually the ideal asset class.
Nice. Interesting. But that your investor, you buy the gemstones directly?
Yeah, just to give you an idea what I'm talking about, when you see my hand here, I don't know, you see my hand, this little one, So everything I own, in assets, when I talk about a gemstone, it fits actually in this hand. So I'm a very poor guy, you could say. But if I tell you whatever you need for the rest of your life, you double it, triple it, it will still fit in your hand, and you can put it in your pocket and go, I don't know, to the Middle East, to Asia, to Latin America. Who cares? And you can live from this. So this is actually the basic fascination. It's the most condensed form of storing value. Give an idea. On an annual basis, 3,000 tons of gold are mined, 10 tons of diamonds, and just 600 kilograms of gemstones. So this is the general setting. And for centuries, it has been a store of value, an accepted store of values, actually for thousands of years. And what we did here as a first step, we acquired a big stock of compliant, audited and fine gemstones, rough gemstones, and we are now in the process of turning them into polished ones, sell them off, and feast on this value creation of 3x, 5x on the original value.
Okay, now very interesting. And so you actually physically have the gemstones?
Yeah, we hold them. We acquired them in Brazil because it's like a white market. Right now it's around 120 kilograms. We have investors going there, analyzing them, seeing them. It's interesting. Yeah? It also does something to yourself when you go with your hand through this pile. And it's interesting because whenever, I mean, usually, Stefan, we talk about tech. Tech is fancy and it's our bread and butter. But here, you just take something out of the earth, change it a little bit, because polishing is not a big value add at all. But by doing so, you have the 3x, 5x in a very simple procedure. And you can do it with crude oil, you can do it with diamonds, with gemstones, whatever. It's always the same. So as an add-on, on diversification investment, it's very appealing, and that's what we are doing.
Yeah, 100%. And I think now, especially in this world of uncertainty, where you have a lot of macroeconomic forces now at play, there is a certain drive to sort of tech and innovation. I think people understand that this has a huge impact and the world will need more tech and innovation. So I think we are sort of benefiting from this, but also, I guess, to more hard assets, to gold, to gemstones. How do you see the macro environment and the changes that we are currently facing benefit your investment strategy?
So when you look at, we have various products, very advanced products. I always say you need a double PhD to really understand what this machine learning and AI is doing. So they also work well on an intraday basis, and they are applied by huge banks. But for a private person, it's difficult to understand. When we look at this gemstone product, it doesn't correlate with anything. When you look at the prices over the past 30 years, it's very clear. It doesn't move with stock markets, and it does not move with bond and treasury markets. Especially if you underpin it, with this value creation, it's actually super interesting. But still, the question is why we are doing it, and we also, as a company, we have now like 10 million invested in this product, and me personally as well. Why are we doing this? Yes, it's a cool product, but actually it's more. I really see the future of an absolutely new asset class, because what you and I always forget is, when you look at gold, for instance, as an ETF or ETC, it's just 20 years out there. 2000, it was not there. Yeah, so it's fairly new and multi-billion-dollar business now. With gemstones, it will be exactly the same, a little bit more attractive, but it's the same. And that's what we are doing here, establishing this asset class.
Nice. Yeah, I think it's obviously there are always changes in the alternative investment space. Now, if you look at, you've been in the industry for a while, where do you see the trends going outside of gemstones maybe? What are sort of the opportunities in the general alternative space?
So talking to we are talking to professional institutional investors. You need to separate those institutional who need to be exposed to stocks and treasuries. Let's take them apart and let's assume talking about investors who have a free choice. I mean, many don't really know what to do. Yeah, I mean, inflation is high, cash is probably difficult, but you should have cash now to be flexible on your toes. Real estate. Yeah, let's see how the prices will react to the increase in interest. Many investment products in general are suffering because of the rising interest rates and bonds becoming more interesting. Tech investments. I mean, there will again be a good time now, maybe not a good time. So I see a lot of investors worrying, considering alternative asset classes which are hard, investing in agriculture, buying land, doing stuff like this. That's why also, I mean, when you look at our little first product, 175 million in size for the first one. It was launched 8 weeks ago. Now we are at 150 million. So you see, it's not only a reception. Many families and investors say, okay, I want also to do something which is asset-backed and not correlating with a lot of other things.
Yeah, I totally hear you. I think this correlation to public markets and the general uncertainty that we see with the interest rate changes that obviously are hitting private equity, where leverage is usually applied, or they're hitting real estate. In venture, especially what we are doing, early stage venture, we are uncorrelated because great startups get founded all the time. The only difficulty for early stage venture is maybe that we've come out of these hybrid years where people have lost trust sometimes in funds. And so some fund managers are now struggling to fundraise because, there's a sort of readjustment in the general market. Some investors have pulled back, but in general, I'm very bullish on the vintages that are being created right now, because the startups that are founded and started today, they're actually also solving hard problems. So we've seen a kind of return in venture capital to the foundations where venture came from, backing serious entrepreneurs, so solving hard problems that are impacting our all lives. They're not just tech-enabled bicycle rental companies and whatever, right? What we have seen in the last 10 years. And I think this is exciting, at least to me, that you have this shift more to foundational value, where you say, okay, what is the core P&L? What is the core technology that is actually being developed here? And so this is also, I think, interesting with hard assets like gemstones, that there is an inherent value in these assets.
If you ask me, I do just 3 things and everything else got divested, so to speak. I invest in tech, so in my own companies, things I do, and also with AQVC, because it absolutely makes sense from a portfolio perspective. So tech on one hand, real estate, and there I do property development, because there are still interesting returns, not in Germany, but in other markets. And then I do hard assets as a gemstones myself. And everything else, like stock or direct investments or bonds or something, it's all divested.
Yeah, no, and I mean, but from your entrepreneurial journey, right now, building Quantumrock, I think what we have seen is very often that people don't see that these are not just investment products, but these are also companies and firms and teams. What is your journey also there, maybe building up that company, and how's your structure and your team? Do you feel that now we are in this post-COVID world, it's become easier to work remotely, or do you keep everybody very, very close to your heart?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the journey, the first company grew to, I don't know, close to 500 people with subsidiaries, wholly owned subsidiaries everywhere. Basically, so it was a complex business. Software, software as a service, cloud business, but still with a lot of people. The second one came maybe to 80 people. However, I took the core team over, more or less. Yeah, so it's like with good old friends, when you once learned whom to trust, how can deliver something and what not, life is much easier. And with Quantumrock, it's the same. However, we are a very focused specialist organization. It's more about high-end profiles and not many heads, where you have a close relationship. And we started to exploit, this home office regime during COVID a lot. But to be honest, to be really creative, I think you need to have a small team, a small core team sitting together, being creative, on the eye during a coffee break and so on, and getting really efficient. So I believe in this much more than everyone is remote and doing their thing.
Yeah,
maybe I'm just a control freak, could also be.
For me, it was honestly when we built my previous startups, both were over 100 people at one point, and I wanted to have everybody very close and in the office. But through COVID, I also learned how to lead remotely, right? I think this is also one thing that COVID has allowed us. And now with AQVC, we are a much smaller organization still. We're also getting now close to 20 people, but it's still, because we've started it remotely, we can also operate it remotely, which gives also a lot of freedom, but it really requires the team to be, as you said, like senior people, right people in the right job. If you hire junior people who are not yet self-sufficient, who need a lot of like hand-holding still, it's actually very difficult to do that fully remotely. So we've also seen fund managers and tech companies that are sort of in the asset management space struggle with that very often. But I think also this new work topic, all of this is slowly adjusting and grooving itself in now. Where do you see now in terms of still, if you can work remotely, where do you see the world moving? I mean, you're based in Munich. What is sort of, where do you look now for investors? You have most of your investors in Asia, but where do you see also the opportunities when you go build these partnerships?
So, I mean, for us as a company, it's interesting because we have also from an entrepreneurial point of view, I mean, we have this patent pending AI platform and all of this, and do really fancy investment products for large banks. And then you create this blockbuster, which is skyrocketing, and actually, the tail is wagging with the dog all of a sudden because this one product is shining out everything else. And this also determines our future flight path. Our customer base is very international. I mean, yes, we have German families and high net worth individuals investing here, Swiss, UK, but at the same time, Middle Eastern and Asian. So we are traveling a lot. Our core team is on the road a lot, to meet clients, meet investors. And when you want to call it a value chain, where we source the stones, how they get monitored and polished and so on, it's also globally, so it's international. So actually it involves a lot of remote for sure, and it helps, but core team is still in one place.
And tell me more about your AI platform. I wasn't actually fully aware of that, so this is also very interesting.
Yeah, and here's a gut feeling again, when it kicked in, because I was always interested in stock exchanges and so on, and I understood that because of the faster dissemination of information, everywhere, stock markets would change much more frequent and faster. So fast that the time you need to develop a new, let's call it hedge fund product, takes much longer, that the pattern persists you want to exploit. You have, like in supply chain, you would say you have a mismatch, you have a dysfunct supply chain because your lead time is longer than your customer is going to allow. And as we analyzed, the development time for new investment strategies, we understood most of this is legwork and can be automated. So our platform is about full automation of, detecting what we call an alpha pattern. Alpha, detecting it, and on the fly creating a full-fledged trading model for this, including the code you can take and implement in a platform. It's sort of cool, but the real point is we can do this in minutes or hours. The usual process takes, 18 months. So that means any bank and asset manager with such a platform can bring to market a new product extremely fast and react almost proactively, work on the current market conditions and, be always on the alpha source. So this is the theory. We have some products out there for 6-7 years in real life, and they work almost like a charm. So they work really good in their respective sources. And exactly this platform, when we analyzed all available asset classes, brought us to gemstones, because you could call it, there was an alpha alert for this specific one, and that's why we dug into this.
Yeah, I love this story because it reiterates what we discussed in the beginning, right? You need to have an expertise in something, and then your investment strategies on your wealth creation, put them on autopilot, right? I think this is where at least, I'm very, very good in early stage venture and startups. This is what I know very well. I don't know public markets, I don't know hedge funds, and I don't know these strategies very well. So this is, why you look for fund of funds to invest into early stage venture. And this is why I personally look for alternatives and products that are easy accessible in areas which I don't understand, but find where there is a lot of potential. And this is, I think, resonating with everybody I talk with in the world. No, it's super interesting. Now, tell me about this. This must be super busy. What is sort of what keeps you sane? How do you structure your day in order to kind of drive this whole business also forward?
First of all, and it might sound silly, it's a webinar about tech and so on, but I'm a happy person. So that really helps a lot. I have a nice family, a big family. It's a good source of strength, and I do what I like. So I basically work not fixed hours, but all day long, because I really like what I'm doing. And some sport on the side keeps you also sane, and that's why it's working. On the other hand, if I would sit around for, a day, I would not be a happy person anymore. So I always need to do something.
Yeah, it's about this energy and this fast pace. So as you know, I recently moved to the UAE, and I think it's super exciting to be here, especially if I can be here during the winter now. There's a lot of business and a lot of opportunity here in the region, and it's just much more exciting than I feel sometimes in Germany. And I get personally a lot of energy if I'm around a busy hub, where there's a lot of entrepreneurship, a lot of smart people around me. This is where I thrive and get a lot of energy out of that. So
I see that. I can relate to that.
Yeah, but at the end, it's all, as you said, also, it's like for true entrepreneurs, it's not a work-life balance where you say I work 9 to 5 and then I shut out. It's you technically always work. So you really have to love what you do, and be healthy with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also learned with my companies, I always was investing a lot of money in my own companies, and I always did. Because when you believe in something, you need to put your money where your mouth is on one hand, but it also attracts other investors because they understand that you're committed. Here it's the same, not only with the company, but also with the product. We invested ourselves like 10 million. I also put in a considerable amount on top of that, because first of all, I create things which I like, also for myself. And that's why I'm very convinced and can also go to investors and convince it wholeheartedly, because I know I think it's a very good thing to do.
Yeah, it's like to a certain extent, it's a little bit like burn the boats. Yeah, so you need to get somewhere and really build it. So you should put enough capital in there so that it definitely hurts. I don't think necessarily you need to risk it all, right? There's a family, there's a life around it. But at least what we see when we invest, for example, in VC funds, we look at the GP commitment of these fund managers. It's always important. You need to put it in relation. Where are they in their life, and what is like a commitment that is really showing true commitment from them, right? If they are, if their personal net worth is 100 million or more, and they put in 500K into their fund, and they want you to put in 5 million, then you're like, really? Do you
Looks
truly believe
strange.
in that? Yeah, it looks strange. Exactly. So there's always a bit of a decision-making process around this to see, because there's no fixed number on what is a true commitment. But I think
Yeah.
that's still important to look at.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. So, I mean, this is also supposed to be an interactive sessions. I mean, we have a good audience here. So if anybody has any questions to Stefan or Stefan, please let us know. You can use the chat, or you can use the Q&A feature here if you want to ask anonymous. We are reading the questions. But maybe
the good news is you can ask Stefan, and you would always get an answer,
Exactly.
Maybe two answers.
One Stefan will answer for sure. That's true. So the gemstones in the form of stones, or the gemstones in the form of VC funds, you're more than welcome to ask us any questions. But Stefan, we're coming to the end also of the session, and also to the end of this year. Where will you spend next year, and what will be your focus topics maybe for the next year to come, and also what are the things to watch out for maybe?
Yeah, I'm now in the phase, and I have been there a couple of times, where I'm sleepless, but in a positive way. I cannot really sleep because there's so much opportunity at hand, and I need to work on it. So to your question, the market, the gemstone market is like, I don't know, $35 billion a year for gemstone-based jewelry. Major part of this is gemstone, so it's a huge market. We are out there with just the first product. We are already asked for the second one. We are working on it. I see next year we have out there 5-6 of those and comparable products, and really, make it an asset class known. And I mean, you can do your research. It's the world's first professional investment product on gemstones. There's nothing else out there yet. It's also a little bit of cool, My son asked me, and what is this all about? And I said, it's also a little bit cool, We are still the only one, and you need to use the time as long as it is like this. So that will keep us busy next year.
Cool. Yeah, I like it, right? Obviously, you've made your exit, you've made your money, but you're still hungry, and you're still pioneering, leading the way in this new asset class, which is super exciting, obviously. And we got a question from another Stefan now from the audience. If it's possible to apply debt capital to gemstones or diamond, either to purchase or as a sort of Lombard credit, right? Are you aware of this, or are you using even leverage in your own structure?
Oh, it's an excellent question. So we have 1 more hour left, yeah? Good. No, see, the problem is with gemstones, or the challenge is, currently it's kept inside a closed oligopoly community. You need to come out of this special, like cotton industry type thing in order to understand it fully and make money with it. But when you talk about outsiders like lenders, like banks, asset managers, and so on, and debt companies, for them it's difficult to grasp. You can only Lombard it or make it work for a debt instrument when you create a capital market product with all the compliance, all the ticks in the box you need, and that's what we did. So yes, you can. What we do, for instance, you can put in your depot, in your bank account, and apply also for debt financing for it. And we are also approached by debt funds to look into this type of investment.
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes, exactly. I think when I built Watchmaster, one of my previous startups, which was a luxury watch re-commerce business, we saw that about 30% of transactions, I mean, this was end customer facing, were financed. So people like to finance things a lot, and then you could obviously have securitized the watches. We built like a bond product around it to build a working capital structure. So if you have the assets there, I think a lot of ways to securitize it and structure that. So very, very interesting. Are there any other questions from the audience? Otherwise, Stefan, any final advice on starting to build your family office investing, but also your gemstone allocation to our audience?
I think everyone who is concerned, with wealth and making money, preserving money, has the obligation, to look into new and alternative ways. And I think it's a good point to start also to look in what we are doing, just as an exercise, and you will learn something from it. So I invite you, get in contact with us or do your research and ask questions.
Thank you. Yes, this is a great call to action. Maybe there's a final question here that just came in. What is the largest public diamond trading marketplace that also a private buyer can access? I have no idea.
So quickly, we need to differentiate between diamonds and gemstones.
Yes.
Gemstones are like sapphires, rubies, emeralds, and so on. They're much more precious than diamonds. Diamond is like vodka, gemstones is like cognac, whiskey, and a good wine, a Bordeaux or something like this. Much more rare than diamonds. For diamonds, the market is artificial, so there's enough supply, but it's kept short by the big players to create sort of stable prices, but the prices are going up and down. Gemstones, you will never have enough to satisfy market demand. That's why the prices are stable and go up. But you ask now for diamonds, which is not our cup of tea. Anyway, the big market hubs for diamonds, Antwerp, apparently, but also Hong Kong, India, and the Middle East. DMCC, this the zone where diamond mining gemstone companies are like free zoned. It became, I think, in diamonds, it's already the biggest trading hub on a global basis within a short period of time. So this is a place to go. In our case, gemstones, it's also Hong Kong, India, Thailand, and Dubai, not so much Antwerp. But what we did acquire rough gemstones. And as a private person, you will not find access to good stones and good sources. And you are also not able to do all those compliant ASG, ESG, AML, and all this stuff. So we invested a lot of money with auditors and experts, to prove that everything is as it should be. So this is not open for private people, I'm afraid.
Thank you. This was a nice, a very interesting explanation. I think we could now really continue for the next hour to dig deeper into these details. But we're out of time, unfortunately. I think this was great. Thank you, Stefan, so much for joining us on the webinar. And thanks a lot to the audience for the great questions and interactive sessions.
It was a pleasure, Stefan. Thank you.
Thank you. Speak soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.